Okay, let's jump straight into this. Listen up, operators, because this is an urgent Code Ninja security advisory, and you need to hear this right now. If you're running the self-hosted Nezha Monitoring tool anywhere on your infrastructure, I need you to freeze whatever you're doing and pay absolute attention. What we're doing today is executing a real-time coordinated vulnerability disclosure. The goal of this explainer is incredibly straightforward. We need to force a vendor patch across the entire community and give you immediate mitigation strategies for a frankly fatal flaw in your perimeter. We are looking at a catastrophic zero-day vulnerability that can literally hand over the keys to your entire kingdom. I mean, your monitoring stack is supposed to be your watchtower, right? But right now, it is a wide open backdoor. You have to act on this intelligence immediately.
Now, to put the sheer scale of this threat into perspective, the numbers are frankly terrifying. We are not talking about a minor bug here. We're looking at a 9.1 critical base score on the CVSS 3.1 scale. That score was officially assigned by GitHub Inc., and it's being actively tracked across security databases worldwide as we speak. For those who know, a 9.1 out of 10 means the barriers to entry for an attacker are almost non-existent, but the potential damage? It's absolute. When a 9.1 critical alert flashes across your SOC dashboard, it means standard operational procedures are out the window. It is a full-stop drop-everything event for any sysadmin until that perimeter is secured.
So let's look at exactly what we're up against here. The specific threat vector we're dissecting is CVE 2026-535019. And the target? Basically any self-hostable server running Nezha monitoring versions prior to 2.013. Now let's break down that vector string because it's important. That AVN right there, that means the attack vector is entirely network-based. A threat actor doesn't need to be anywhere near your physical hardware. They can hit you from a coffee shop on the other side of the planet. ACL means attack complexity is low. They don't need some elaborate, crazy multi-stage chain of exploits to get inside. And the absolute kicker, PRN, means absolutely no privileges or authentication are required. No password needed, no user account needed. They literally just need to know your server is plugged into the internet, and boom, they're in.
Let's trace the timeline of how this built up, because honestly, the sheer speed of this disclosure really highlights how bad it is. Seeing this kind of rapid federal escalation is exceptionally rare in our sector. Okay, so on June 12, 2026, the National Vulnerability Database, the NVD, officially published the initial receipt of this from GitHub. By June 15th, a CISA Coordinator had already jumped in and conducted a Stakeholder-Specific Vulnerability Categorization, or SSVC, evaluation. And then, just 2 days after that, on June 17th, we saw simultaneous modifications from both CISA ADP and GitHub to officially lock in the affected vendor, Nezha HQ, and the specific vulnerable versions. Going from a submitted flaw to a federally evaluated top-tier critical threat in just 5 days? That's wild. It signals that the authorities recognize this as a massive, widespread danger.
Okay, before we dive deep into the actual exploit mechanics, we need to do a quick comms check. The threat landscape we operate in shifts by the minute, and you just cannot rely on delayed intel. So I am instructing all operators watching this advisory to establish a secure communication link right now. Hit that subscribe button for @Cybertech79 and make sure you enable all notifications. Don't frame this as just another social media follow. Treat it as a strict security necessity. This channel is your direct pipeline for real-time, actionable cyber intelligence, and you absolutely need that pipeline open the second 0 days like this drop. Right, so I need confirmation that this transmission is coming through loud and clear. You know, in networking, when a data packet successfully reaches its destination, the system immediately sends back an ACK, an acknowledgement. So have you ACK'd this intel? Drop a like on this explainer right now to formally confirm receipt of this advisory. Awesome. Once our communication lines are verified and secure, we can proceed to dissect the actual blast radius of this vulnerability. All right, we are officially entering the deep dive phase of the protocol. The vulnerability sitting at the core of CVE 2026-53519 is classified as a CWE22. Officially, that's an improper limitation of a path name to a restricted directory. But in the white hat community, we just call this a classic path traversal attack. Think of it like this. In a properly secured system, a web application restricts user access to a very specific isolated directory. Usually, it's just where the public-facing images and scripts live. It's like a locked safe room. Well, a path traversal flaw means the locking logic on that safe room is completely busted. It allows an attacker to literally traverse backwards, stepping right out of that designated safe directory and start casually poking around in your backend file system. They gain the ability to read raw underlying data that they have absolutely no business seeing. And this right here perfectly illustrates why the federal authorities are taking this so seriously. Let's look closely at that CISA SSVC threat analysis from June 15th. Now, active exploitation was marked as none at the exact time of the assessment, but look at the very next metric. Automatable? Yes. That is a massive, glowing red flag for any infrastructure operator. It means threat actors don't have to manually seek you out. They can just write a simple, lightweight script to scan the entire internet and exploit this flaw at massive scale, completely on autopilot. Plus, the technical impact is listed as total. And as we said, zero authentication is required. If your infrastructure is sitting out there unpatched, it's not a matter of if an automated bot will find and breach you. It's strictly a matter of when.
So how exactly does this total compromise happen under the hood? Let's break down the NoRoute handler sequence in the vulnerable Nezha code. It starts when an unauthenticated actor sends a deliberately crafted, sketchy URL, something like /dashboard.data/config.yaml. Now, the system's fallback to front-end function is supposed to verify if this is a legitimate request for an admin front-end asset. But here is the fatal flaw, guys. It uses a highly flawed strings.HasPrefix check. Because the malicious input technically starts with the word /dashboard, the system just blindly trusts it. It completely fails to perform a secure path segment match. It's literally exactly like a bouncer at a club checking if your ID starts with a 19 for your birth year, but completely ignoring the rest of your date of birth and just waving you right through the door.
Now, let's zoom in on the exact point of failure here. After the system is tricked by that lazy HasPrefix check, it executes a strings trim prefix command. This simply chops off the /dashboard part of the request. And what's left behind? The actual payload, ./data/config.yaml. From there, the system uses path join, which normalizes this string into data/config.yaml. Finally, OSStat locates the file on your server, and http.serve file happily hands it right over to the attacker. You have to realize your config.yaml file contains the most sensitive backend configurations, secrets, and database strings for your entire monitoring setup. Exposing this, totally unauthenticated, is an absolute catastrophic operational failure.
This brings us to your mandatory mitigation protocol. If your home lab, your startup, or your enterprise infrastructure is running any version of Nezha Monitoring prior to 2.0.1.13, you are currently vulnerable. You are a sitting duck. The improper input validation in that NoRoute handler leaves you entirely exposed to automated data exfiltration. Your immediate, non-negotiable directive today is to update your systems to version 2.0.1.13 or higher right now. What this patch does is officially replace that flawed prefix check with proper path segment matching, which effectively neutralizes the traversal vector entirely. Do not put this off until tomorrow. Getting this patched is the literal only way to restore integrity to your monitoring stack. Now, moving into our ethics and sign-off phase. You might be asking yourself why white hat researchers publicly disclose the exact step-by-step mechanics of vulnerabilities like this. I mean, it might seem like we're just handing threat actors a playbook, right? But the code we operate by is simple and it's highly pragmatic. Users need to know exactly what is broken in order to protect their systems. Transparency is the only thing that forces patches. If we don't shine a really bright spotlight on these critical flaws and detail the blast radius, vendors might quietly delay their fixes. And that leaves users operating completely in the dark, with infrastructure ripe for silent exploitation. Coordinated vulnerability disclosure isn't about pointing fingers at developers. It's literally the immune system of the internet. It forces accountability across the board, and it hardens the global perimeter for everyone. Well, you've received the intel, you know the exact blast radius, and you have your mitigation directives. Go patch your Nezha deployments immediately. But before I end this transmission, I really want you to take a hard look at your entire stack and ask yourself a provocative question. If a simple lazy prefix check could completely compromise your core monitoring tool, what other silent vulnerabilities are currently lurking in your self-hosted services? Go audit your logs, update your software, and never assume you're invisible just because you haven't been hit yet. Is your perimeter truly secure? Stay secure.